The companies have got no idea on the buttons they're pushing on people. They just think because the government says they can, they can. We'll have some bloody decency.
We're not going blindly down this alley to see the development of this industry. We are at all steps along the way making sure it is done safely and sustainably.
The next El Dorado for miners and governments, a growing clamour of angry protest from the bush. Welcome to Four Corners. Australians are now inured to news of mining bonanzas as resource-hungry nations rush to buy up our coal, our iron ore, our offshore natural gas. Now there is a new resource kid on the block, the coal seam gas industry, with Queensland leading the way. Companies there have already committed $31 billion to develop projects approved by the state and federal governments. Another massive Queensland project requiring a further $35 billion to develop has already been given state approval, with a federal government decision due tomorrow. The move is on across every mainland state. The potential profits are huge. Governments crave revenue and job creation. As always, there's another side to the coin. Much of the drilling is taking place on farmland, and while many farmers have signed up, others are saying they've been kept in the dark and conned. That drilling sites are springing up like topsy all over their farms, some with significant gas leakage, and that Australia's greatest underground water resource, the Great Artesian Basin, will be contaminated and depleted. This is shaping into a classic battle of David and Goliath, as Matthew Carney reports.
The coal seam gas rush is on, and the biggest in the business are going to build 40,000 wells that will transform rural Queensland forever. A vast spider web of industrial infrastructure will crisscross some of the state's prime farming lands. The impacts will be massive, and to get a sense of what's to come, we've come to the most mature gas fields in southeast Queensland. There are already 3,000 wells here.
Hey, you can jump off. Too bumpy. Jump off. Too rough.
In the middle of it all is Katie and Scott Lloyd's farm, about halfway between the towns of Chinchilla and Tara.
Good man.
They've been living and breathing coal seam gas for 10 years. Queensland Gas Company, or QGC, was the first to come with 3 wells. Origin Energy followed with 18 more. But when QGC came back with plans for another 30, that's when the Lloyds realised they had a battle on their hands.
There's no rights at all. Basically, the government owns the resources, and they've encouraging these companies to come in and get that resource out on behalf of them, essentially.
They employed sneaky people and people who could tell what lies one day, and they'd tell you, sweet talk you one day and tell you a blatant lie in the face the following day.
They did stop QGC from turning their beef farm into a fully developed gas field, for now.
We've got a lot riding on this property, and it's we're passionate about what we're doing, and I think we're owed a bit of disclosure about what our future holds.
Katie says dealing with Origin is better, but it's a relationship they don't want.
Now we're confronted, with wells, with gravel roads, with signs everywhere, and that's it's a different landscape to what we have always been used to.
Gas workers are constantly around. Katie says they've lost control of their property. Scott Lloyd works as best as he can around the gas operations. What really worries him is the accelerated drop in his water table since the companies arrived. His cattle are totally dependent on bore water drawn from the Great Artesian Basin. At this one, the level has fallen 10 metres, though the gas companies dispute his findings.
We've only got 5 metres left available to pump. And then,
So you've lost 2/3 of your standing water,
that's
essentially.
correct, yeah. So if it continues to decline at the rate we are, we've probably only got 2 to 3 years water left here. So it's pretty scary, yeah.
What's happening under the Lloyd's farm is a highly technical process to extract coal seam gas. To get it, a well has to be drilled between 300 and 1,200 metres through aquifers to coal beds deep underground. The gas is trapped within the seams and held in place by water pressure. To release the gas, first the water has to be pumped to the surface. Then the gas can flow. Sometimes, depending on geology, hydraulic fracturing or fracking of the coal seam is required. What this means is that a mixture of water, sand and chemicals are blasted into the coal beds to crack and hold open the seams, allowing the gas to flow.
So this whole road would now be completely owned by gas companies.
The Lloyds, like many farmers, fear the Great Artesian Basin, Australia's greatest underground water resource, will be contaminated and depleted. Katie says they're determined to stay on, but down the road, their neighbour has just sold up. He felt he had no choice. Queensland Gas put 77 wells on his property. They had to move off the land.
Yeah, they felt that they had to for sanity, I suppose, and things that would have just been too difficult to live here and carry out their day-to-day lives and businesses.
One there, pan around. There's another one. Look off in the distance. Out there, there's another one. And they're going to put these through our homes like this. Not acceptable.
Part of the problem for the farmer was that the gas wells on his property were seriously leaking. So he invited in these local activists to test and film the wells.
Again, the wind's blowing pretty hard.
In fact, more than half were leaking, as this footage shows. It was methane gas and highly explosive.
Oh, that was enough. Look at that puppy sing, man. Look, he's actually holding it out.
That's an example of a very dangerous gas well.
Okay, mate. Yep.
QGC always maintained its wells were safe and did not leak.
Oh my God. Once again. Look at that, there we go. That's our highest reading ever.
Okay, mate, I'm getting out of here right now.
Dude,
I
do
don't
it
like
again.
this at all. Mate, no, that'll do for today. I've seen enough, mate. Now it really is dangerous.
Another neighbour, who also does not want to be identified, has 48 wells on his property. The gas companies say they pay fair and just compensation, but the farmer only gets $250 a year for each of these wells from QGC. It is estimated that each well on average makes the companies $1 million a year.
You know, that's insulting, to say the least, and this would be from someone who has towed the line from the outset and has worked, you know, with this company, and, you know, that's what he's getting.
This is Scott.
Yep, and I've been locked out of my own bit of land. Someone's denied access, so in this case it's us denied access.
So you bought a master key.
The master key is a set of bolt cutters.
On the Lloyd's property, it's the same story. 2 out of 3 QGC wells are leaking. They told the company back in 2006, but it wasn't properly fixed.
So what we've got here is a well. It's leaking so much gas, it's bubbling.
They've been keeping a video diary because the leak is spreading. Originally, it was just at the wellhead, but now it's coming straight out of the ground all around the site.
This is ridiculous. This is actually the worst one I've seen.
Is that right?
Yeah. You know, I've seen a few.
It's coming. There's something seriously wrong here, isn't there?
After 4 years of complaints, QGC is still trying to fix the well. This rig is hoping to plug it with cement. After 3 weeks, the operation was unsuccessful. QGC said they will try again, but Katie and Scott Lloyd fear the well can never be fixed, as they believe permanent damage may have been done to the Great Artesian Basin. As we go to air, the gas is still leaking.
It's exhausting. It's emotionally, physically, financially draining on an individual. But I just think I just know that it's in our best interest to keep asking the questions, keep demanding answers, to keep them all honest too. We've got too much to lose.
Four Corners sought QGC's participation in the making of this program, but they declined. In a written response, they acknowledged a minor seep of gas and apologised to the Lloyds for the delay. And they said they'd be back this Wednesday to fix it. They added, the well poses no unacceptable safety risk. Farmers are not the only ones up in arms. The strongest resistance against the gas giants is coming from an unlikely place further south, the Tara residential estate. Out here, people live on 30-acre bush blocks with no town water or electricity. People like Dayne Pratzky came here to get away from it all. They've pioneered a life out here, but the problem is some of the richest coal seam gas reserves sit beneath them. Queensland Gas has already put in 12 wells and is planning for another 200. Pratzky says the community is determined to fight it.
The companies have got no idea on the buttons they're pushing on people. They just think because the government says they can, they can. Well, have some bloody decency. Have some decency about you and realise that people live here. It's not a gas field. Good morning, Michael.
The residents have taken matters into their own hands and have set up an informal alert network.
Okay, so the seismic testing I heard was taking place the other night at 1 a.m. in the morning. Can you confirm that or not?
Well, they heard explosion earlier when it's shot lines. Someone might be running shot lines.
They're always on the lookout for telltale signs that warn of things to come, to take action so they can delay or disrupt the start of drilling.
And we've made our commitment clear that under no circumstances will we put up with any more wells drilled in the estate, so we need to police it.
Some are taking it even further. There's about a dozen video guerrillas operating in and around the Tara estate. We were given this tape anonymously. Last year, because the companies didn't tell them what's in the fracking fluids, they decided to find out themselves. This activist trekked 7 kilometres to get here, a coal seam gas drilling rig. For 3 days he stalked the site, waiting for the workers to go. Then he entered. mission was to secure samples of the chemicals injected into the ground. Later, tests did reveal the presence of deadly chemicals in the samples. The companies say they're not used at dangerous levels. The Tara Estate residents say they've had enough and have started a campaign of direct action. This is one of the first. They've gathered here to prepare to march on QGC's headquarters in the gas fields.
But let's do this, let's make ourselves heard.
And support is building for the cause. Farmers like Lee McNicol are joining the convoy.
It's the government, in their short-term pursuit of the almighty dollar, have elected to suck it and see. And what they're wanting to suck is the Great Artesian Basin. We don't know how far they're going to lower it, and there's no models out there that can predict it.
Sorry, mate. You got the sorry about that.
We'll have to move off of here. This is
no, mate, this is a blockade.
Property here.
No, mate, this is a blockade. You have to move out of our estates. Hang on, I'm starting to wind up.
Outside QGC's headquarters, emotions run high. Some believe they are fighting for their lives.
We don't want a bloody gas field on top of where we bloody live, do we? Do you? You want to live on a fucking gas field? Do you?
No comment, mate. Violence isn't the answer, mate.
Mick, settle down, Mick. Mick, settle down.
You'll just destroy it for everybody.
We won't be able to live here because we've got to breathe in your gas. I've got 3 children. We got 30 acres. What are we going to do? We're going to leave? Bastards!
The situation is brought under control and the protest continues. A letter is delivered at the entrance.
The Tara residential estates have been declared a gas-free zone. All mining and gas activities are prohibited in residential areas.
These folks have invested their life savings in their investments here, and I hope you appreciate that they've got nowhere to go, and they want to live here sustainably and healthy into the future.
We certainly appreciate and respect the Tara residents' concerns, but other than that, no comment. Thank you.
Yeah, good to see you. Yeah. Thank you very much. Cheers.
Good, Robbie. How are you?
Good, man.
While we were in Queensland, QGC released its Environmental Authority applications. Plans for the next and much bigger phase of its development for LNG export.
So there's 6 wells in that area, and then the pipeline down the middle. Well,
Scores of farmers are finding out for the first time if their properties are going to be affected.
So our property is... Can I use your pen, Robbie?
Veronica Laffy, who hoped for organic certification for her farm, has just found out she'll get 2 wells and a holding pond.
It's really frustrating. You know, we have taken on the responsibility and the debt associated with our farming business, and we're powerless to stop people from accessing it and abusing it. Yeah.
Further down the road, towards the town of Tara, Anne and Robert Bridle are taking a big hit. They've spent their lives building a productive and profitable beef and grain farm on 30,000 acres. What they found out is QGC could put up to 500 wells on their property, in the middle of their feedlots and just 200 metres from their home.
We've set our business up to be progressive and productive and profitable for our benefit, our children's benefit, our staff, our community's benefit, and this will put a full stop on us proceeding in the future.
If these companies have the right of way to do what they do on that in the plans they're putting forward, we're signing a death warrant for our business.
That was never presented. It was only a fluke of nature that we actually found that and became aware of their activity.
The Bridles claim they've been deliberately kept in the dark about the gas plans. When Queensland Gas came knocking in 2009, they showed them this map. It only had a gas pipeline on it. But that was just the foot in the door. Now they've discovered QGC did have this detailed map since 2007. It shows the extent of their proposed wells.
So they knew in that meeting in 2009 what they were going to do?
By the dates on the maps, they must have known.
They knew.
You can't dispute the dates that are printed on the maps.
QGC told Four Corners that they had spoken to the Bridles and explained that full development plans would be provided after exploration and appraisal drilling. The Bridles called in their lawyer, Peter Shannon, to look over the plans. He represents landowners and says it's a common story. Farmers feel like they've been misled and told the impacts will be minimal.
The whole process has been immoral in my book. There has been a lot more knowledge than has been portrayed. There is this huge imbalance. They are asking agriculture to bear the cost of the implementation of the industry by deception.
Last July, Anne Bridle heard about a fracking gone wrong on a neighbour's farm. She decided to investigate and found the major aquifer had been contaminated with salty and toxic water. The gas company said this could never happen. Bridle says QGC tried to cover up the incident.
They didn't tell the government, they didn't tell me as a nearby landholder that has a water entitlement and using water, and they didn't tell, as far as I know, the landholder on whose land the well is situated.
In response, QGC said it unintentionally provided a route for water in the aquifer, as well as the coal measures to enter the well. QGC says it did provide full briefings and updates since mid-2010, but that was 13 months after the incident. But the saga was not over. Anne Bridle had to find out what chemicals QGC had used to frack and see if they contaminated any cattle. Eventually, the government supplied this list with the company's safety data sheets. Anne Bridle noticed that the safety data sheet for the chemical THPS was American, incomplete, and 10 years out of date. It did not contain critical information. So Anne Bridle got the up-to-date Australian safety data sheet for THPS, and what it revealed shocked her. It was highly toxic and warned can cause chemical pneumonia and death. It advised do not discharge into sewers and waterways. Yet Queensland Gas blasted 130 litres of THPS down the well.
The potential health effects are pretty extreme.
Yeah.
And they're not disclosing them.
Correct. That's why we're so worried. I haven't gone down the path of checking all the other sheets that they supplied to see what the date is on them and how current they are. You can look at the top of the well, but you can't see what's happening under the ground. You don't know what's happened down there.
Bridle says QGC still cannot confirm they've sealed the aquifer at the site and fixed the problem.
The Queensland Water Commission...
As a result of her probing, the Queensland Government is investigating the incident. Stephen Robertson is the minister responsible.
Well, again, that investigation is underway, and based on the completion of that investigation, I would expect the environmental regulator to take whatever action is necessary.
Dr Mariann Lloyd-Smith is an advisor to the federal government body known as NICNAS. It assesses and regulates the use of industrial chemicals. She's been studying QGC's Environmental Authority applications and has found the plans contain many more out-of-date and incomplete safety data sheets. Basic but critical information that explains the risks involved.
I've had a look at the application, and what is of concern are the manufacturer safety data sheets, or the material safety data sheets they include. They are certainly not to the Australian standard, and as such they are in breach of both the Queensland Act and the National Code for Material Safety Data Sheets.
Dr Lloyd-Smith is also concerned that most of the fracking chemicals do not have to be assessed by the national regulator, NICNAS, before they are used.
Of the 23 most commonly used compounds in fracturing fluids, the national regulator, NICNAS, has only assessed 2 of those 23. And of the 2 that they have assessed, they weren't assessed for their use in fracturing fluids. So you can basically say of the 23 major chemicals used in this process, they have not been assessed by any national regulator.
She's alarmed because many of the chemicals in use, like glycols and bactericides, are highly toxic and dangerous.
They are being released to the environment. You can't bring them back. As we've heard, up to 40% of the chemicals they use will remain within the structure of the seam and can move through the groundwater. This is of major concern, and certainly my personal opinion is that we need a moratorium on fracturing chemicals until a complete assessment has been undertaken by our national regulator.
QGC told Four Corners that it does not believe that it or any of its contractors has breached the Act.
Every one of them has data sheets that are foreign, out of date, incomplete.
These are environmental applications?
That's right.
Then the necessary authorities, whether it be Coordinator General or the Environment Protection Authority, part of DERM, would be assessing them closely and making appropriate determinations as a result.
Why wasn't this picked up?
Look, I can't answer that question at this point in time, but happy to find out.
John Hillier was the Queensland Government's principal hydrologist for 13 years. He now works as a private consultant. He's concerned about the long-term impact the coal seam gas industry will have on the Great Artesian Basin.
We may not even know that we've got leakage down there for 20, 30, 40 years. So we can have a lot of damage to a big resource that we don't even know about.
Hillier also believes that with the rush on to get the 40,000 wells into the ground, there'll be mistakes and miscalculations, more leaks and more fracks gone wrong.
It's like a lot of things, as the regulation's gone back to the industry, you look after it and make sure it's done properly. In the old days, 20, 30, 40 years ago, an inspector used to attend every cementing of every bore in the Great Artesian Basin in Queensland.
So without that, what do you think the potential is in the future, looking at the future?
I think that 95% of them will be constructed to a satisfactory standard. They will all be attempted to construct to a satisfactory standard, and I think there's likely that somewhere around 5% probably won't quite make that and could have problems throughout their operational life and even when they're plugged and abandoned.
It's not only farmers and scientists who believe the price for the coal seam gas expansion could be damage to the environment, but the federal government's very own department. Last September, the Water Group in the Environment Department warned of significant impacts and concluded for some areas, effects of the coal seam gas developments are considerable, with at least 1,000 years passing before this part of the Great Artesian Basin will return to pre-coal seam gas levels. It also stated the real amount of groundwater the companies would use had been vastly underestimated. The real figure could be as high as 45,000 gigalitres, 22 times more than predicted by the proponents.
Oh, there's no doubt these are tough conditions. The companies...
To deal with the concerns, the Federal Environment and Water Minister Tony Burke says he set strict limits on water extraction in the Great Artesian Basin. On that basis, he gave the go-ahead for the $31 billion Santos and QGC LNG projects.
My conditions say, so test them all and then apply the rules based on what each test says for each seam. And if every seam comes out with connectivity, then repressurisation or re-injection of water, no matter how expensive, will end up being the pathway that is followed. And that's exactly what should happen.
And in Queensland, the government has put in place 1,200 regulations it says will also protect the environment and landholders from the gas giants.
We've put in place a stringent regime of laws and regulations designed to ensure the highest level of environmental protection. Yes, we want to see this industry develop. It's important for Queensland's future, both in terms of wealth and job generation. But it can't come at the cost of our environment, and that's the point that I've made to reassure landholders that we're not going blindly down this alley to see the development of this industry. We are at all steps along the way making sure it is done safely and sustainably.
This industry is an industry that is pretty keen to be around for a long time. If it's going to be around for a long time, if in fact it's going to be protecting the substantial investments that have been made, it needs to be very confident that its environmental footprint, its safety footprint and so on are as minimal as possible.
But many farmers see the new laws only as regulation on the run and not preventing damage in the Great Artesian Basin. Cole Davis reckons attempts to control the industry are too late for him. To prove the point, he shows us this bore.
It's making a bit of a sound, so it'll be right for a fire.
A couple of years ago, Cole noticed his water bores becoming more gassy. This one stopped bubbling water and now only blows gas. Ian Hensen has come to Cole's farm to assess the damage. Hensen has been a water bore driller in the area for 33 years. For him, the explanation is simple.
Well, the gas is coming from, the water in this hole is coming out of the coal and the sandstone, and the gas would have always been there, so there's no problem with that. But what is happening as these coal seam gas companies are lowering the water table, as you lower the water table, it takes the pressure off, and that lets the gas release. So that's where the problem is lowering the water table.
Coal seam gas is not confined to Queensland. About 40 resource companies have targeted every state in Australia. In Victoria, Gippsland has been marked for exploration. In Western Australia, they are sinking test wells in the Perth Basin. New South Wales already has 300 wells. It seems it's all up for grabs in New South Wales. A plan to drill wells next to Sydney's drinking water source at Warragamba Dam has been exposed. And in the heart of the city, at St Peters, Macquarie Energy are preparing to sink their first well just 200 metres from homes. The Hunter Valley community of Broke is another impact zone. The locals have had to get up to speed fast about coal seam gas. What they know so far scares them. Gas wells have been popping up in the middle of vineyards and next to the local school.
They say there's around about $700 million worth of gas under the Hunter.
Australian Gaslight Company, or AGL, has put in 5 exploratory wells, and the company won't tell them how many more will come.
They can't be trusted. They're on the gold rush for coal seam methane gas.
They believe a gas field will destroy their famous vineyards and thriving tourist industry. But help is on hand.
Ladies and gents, this is Dayne Pratzky, also known as the Frack Man. Dayne
They will lie to you. They will tell you whatever you think you need to hear to get into your neighbourhood. Do not let them in. No more wells. No more drills. That's it. It's finished. From here on in, you need to make the stand, draw the sand in the line, and that's it. No more. You tell them no more. And when they turn up with their drill rigs, you all turn out like you have here today.
What has already angered Broke residents is this. They said AGL dumped 120,000 litres of dirty, salty wastewater from a test bore into a paddock the company owned mid-last year. The residents fear it contaminated the groundwater. An AGL insider has decided to speak with Four Corners for the first time about the incident.
It became too much to handle, or too costly to handle, so opted to pump it into the paddock. It shocked me because it was wrong. I asked the drillers who started the pump, and they said, "Oh, fuck, I'm not going to own up to that."
AGL rejects these allegations and in a written response said it released the water in accordance with our water bore licence and that the contamination claims have been given no credence by the government. At 6 o'clock in the morning, the Broke residents marshal and get on the bus to confront AGL and its shareholders in Sydney.
Today we expect to really get under AGL's skin, bring it to them, right in the centre of the city, let people see that, you know, there's a massive angry community out there about their lies, their bullying and the madness that is coal seam gas mining.
They know it's a race against time. Current legislation in New South Wales does not specifically deal with coal seam gas.
We just don't want them around. And we have property and they just, as they say, just come along and just do as they please, and they shouldn't be allowed to do that at all.
We're extremely angry at the way we're being treated by AGL. The fact that they won't answer questions, the fact that they give us false and misleading answers.
Generally, that sort of industry should not be in an area which has been dedicated to growing grapes and wine for tourism. They will destroy the area.
The protesters want AGL to be more transparent, to release their plans for the Hunter Valley.
Sydney, it's time to move. AGL, go to hell. AGL, go to hell. AGL, go to hell. AGL.
They're also demanding the New South Wales government to put a moratorium on coal seam gas until all facts are known and strong legislation is in place.
AGL! AGL! AGL!
The protesters have some serious support from the big end of town. David Clarke has a winery and restaurant in the Hunter. He's also a chairman of Macquarie Bank.
So this is not normally something you do?
I've done it once before, down at the high-rise development down at Double Bay.
But usually you're on the other side, I would think, yeah?
Yeah, often.
The Broke residents want to inform the AGL shareholders about what the company is doing. Dayne Pratzky on the megaphone says they're going to hit the directors where it counts.
I know the board of directors are standing right there looking at us. You're risking your money, AGL. You will not drill in the Hunter Valley. No coal seam gas. No coal seam gas. No coal seam gas. No coal seam gas.
There's a concept called a social licence to operate. And I think it's a concept where big companies who are involved in community assets have the trust of the community, or they don't have the trust of the community. And to my mind, AGL has not won the trust of at least the Broke community.
And I would just like to back up Bev. She forgot to mention the Cobra mine, northwest of Mudgee, which is...
The groundswell of opposition is growing. A once disparate bunch of farmers, greenies, businessmen and lawyers all affected landowners are banding together to forge a new political force. John Thompson, resident of Broke, is leading the push.
That if we get together and we make a strong message to the people of this nation, a strong message to our governments, change will happen. And it will happen, and we will stop this, and we will get the balance back in our lives.
60 groups from all over Australia are represented here, and they decide to attack on several fronts. More protests and direct action to mobilise public opinion, explore all legal avenues. And first up on the political front, the New South Wales election. They're backing about 20 independent candidates to push for change.
By moving this to a national level and getting a level of consensus and agreement on our goals and messages is absolutely huge. This is going to change the nature of the game dramatically. We become a force to be reckoned with.
Back on the farm in Queensland, Katie and Scott Lloyd are also determined to stay on and fight. And for the sake of their kids and others, they want answers.
We all know we're not stupid. We all know that there's, a lot of money to be made out of this industry, and in its current form, it's just get it in at any cost. I mean, what's a few, farmers, communities, lifestyles, their health, And that's unfortunately how it feels for many at the moment.
As you heard in Matthew Carney's story, the company QGC chose not to be interviewed on camera, but submitted lengthy written answers to questions instead. We've published those answers in full on our website at abc.net.au/4corners, as well as a detailed response from AGL. Next week on Four Corners, the miracle baby of Haiti. The story of a baby girl plucked from the rubble of the Haiti earthquake and the doctor who broke the rules to evacuate her to Britain for specialist medical care. The simple act of mercy that would have profound consequences for everyone. Until then, good night.
An extended interview from this edition of Four Corners is coming up next here on ABC News 24.